I come from a big Irish Catholic family. I'm number 6. And I actually, since I was a little girl, I've been able to hear and see angels. And of course, in my Catholic upbringing, I was told that I could only have guardian angels. And so I was chastised and shamed. So I hid my gifts for a long time. But my angels were with me, and they helped me through a lot of challenges in my life. And they've always been with me. And so what I do now is connect in that realm. And I never really tapped into my abilities until about 40 years ago, right? I always knew they were there, and I always could talk to them on the inside, but I was very fearful of sharing it with other people, especially when my other siblings were involved with all this woo-woo stuff that I'm involved in now. And I was a good Christian girl, I was a Christian mother and, minding my P's and Q's, and I was also a church secretary. So, I didn't want anybody to know that I could hear spirits and see them and stuff like that. So, but finally, through my own change, my own recovery, I actually started standing in my power and started to grow and stand into who I really am, my authentic self. Is a divine being. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I've had a lot of tragedy in my life. My father died at 48, and I was 15 years old. And before that, I always wanted to be a nurse midwife. And my father died. He had alcoholism, heart disease, cirrhosis of the liver. He was a very sick man. And after he died, I gave up my dream. And I was going out with my high school sweetheart. And 4 years later, I married him, right? And started having children right away. That's what we did in the 70s. We got married, type of stuff. And but I wasn't happy. It wasn't a marriage. It wasn't a marriage at all. And I always knew that. However, a lot of my other siblings too, we had a terrible childhood growing up and dysfunctional. My parents were both active alcoholics. And so I learned how to behave or do to be loved, and very codependent, very enabling. However, I didn't know how to love myself. That was the whole key. But I did know that the marriage was not healthy. I did know that, I married for security, which most of us did back then. But as the years went by, I was getting more and more unhappy. And even when I was a church secretary, when my children, my boys were almost teenagers, and my daughter was 2 or 3 years old, I wasn't happy. And I decided to do something about it. So I got into recovery for codependency, which means, how I was acting and behaving. And most of it was from my childhood stuff. But it took me 8 years before I got into recovery for alcoholism. And I didn't drink a lot. My ex-husband drank almost every day. But what I learned over the years, and I truly know now, there's all different degrees of alcoholism, and it's not how much you drink, it's the reasons why you drink. And most people drink to numb the feelings, right? So mine was always emotional drinking and self-sabotaging behaviors that I wasn't good enough, worthy enough. And that's part of the codependency stuff. So when I got into recovery for codependency, those 8 years, I was involved with Al-Anon, which is for families with any type of dysfunction, especially alcoholism. But a lot of families use it for, mental illness problems, separation problems. It's a very good structured program that brings the focus back to yourself. But during those 8 years, I was always pointing my fingers, playing the victim role. I wasn't looking at myself. But what happened was my children became the catalyst. And even though I didn't drink all the time, I felt guilty when I did drink. And then I started looking at them and thinking, well, maybe they're going to feel what I felt. And I knew from Al-Anon that if I didn't get healthy, no way would they even have a chance. So that's why I got into recovery for alcoholism. And it was very hard because my ex-husband, was very angry because I stopped drinking with him. And that was really down the tubes. That was down the tubes. And that was in 93. So 85 is when I went in for Al-Anon. And then in 93 was for alcoholism. And through that, they're all spiritual programs, right? And I had been so focused on my Christianity that once I got into the program, they said, this is not a Christian-based recovery. This is about spirituality. And then that's when I started seeing things, and things that I had seen all the years came back, flashed through my head. How those angels and how the spirit and how, my loved ones that had passed, and I had many had passed by then, were always with me, so I couldn't deny it. I went to nursing school in the 90s after I got sober. I had 3 years of nursing to be a midwife. However, I never finished for my RN for that because I actually had an accident and ripped my hamstring out of my leg. But when I look back at that time, my soul knew what I needed to do. It was part of my journey. And when I was in nursing school, I learned hospice work. And that's when spirit really started coming and talking to me, and then I couldn't deny it anymore. I couldn't deny it. And so that kind of revved up a little stronger and stronger, and I really started working a spiritual life, feeling myself. I didn't go to church anymore, Christian church. It was more of going to the meetings and relating with people that could understand me. In the meantime, the marriage got worse and worse. But during that time, I was able to go back to school for phlebotomy. And I worked at one of the major hospitals here in Rochester. And I was in the phlebotomy department for 8 years. And then 8 years in, I was actually recruited by the nursing department to come and be on their expert IV team. And so I was a nursing anyway. So even though I wasn't a nurse midwife, I still was a nursing, and I already had all the education in the background. And I had the hospice work, and I had my own life experiences to take care of my mother-in-law who had Parkinson's and stuff like that. So I had life experiences. I was an older student. And so everything happened the way it was supposed to. From 2000 to 2004, almost 2005, I was trying to get out of the marriage, and my boys were already married. So when I got married in the 70s, I had 2 boys right away, 2 years apart. And then my daughter never came till almost 9 years later. And so when I went to nursing school, I was older. And in the 90s, my boys got married at the end of the 90s. And so from 2000 to 2004, I had to actually get myself stronger to be able to leave the marriage, right? And there was a lot of abuse, a lot of stuff like that. And I had no way of getting out. A lot of people don't believe that's possible. Well, it is. It's possible, believe me. We had a big, beautiful home, but there was no marriage, and it was all about control. And what I did in Al-Anon and in recovery is that I took responsibility for that I played a role in that. A lot of people always blame everybody else. It's like, no, you chose that. When I look back now, of course, it was all part of my soul's contract or my soul's journey, what I needed to learn for the wisdom that I have today. I mean, I know that clear as day. And that's what helps me today. What I want to talk about is that when I started saying about my soul knew, where I was going to go, I always wanted to be a nurse midwife. But, things turned out that it didn't happen that way. But when I was a little girl, the greatest story, I think, and I only remembered about 5 or 6 years ago, when I was about 6 years old, and you got to remember this, I'm number 6 of 8 kids. And I was the only one in a big woody station wagon in Tucson, Arizona, with my mother in the car. And I said, out of the blue, Mommy, where did we come from? How did we get here? And she pulled the car over, she turned it off. She turned around and looked at me and she said, honey, I don't know. She didn't know, but my soul knew. My soul knew. And so, I mean, that's when, I talked with the angels and stuff like that, and I was scolded for talking to them or whatever. But it's like, all this stuff was happening and communication was happening with spirit and energy and stuff like that, but I couldn't tell anybody. And so as the years went by, and when I started getting involved in who I really was, finally getting out of the marriage and started working on myself, then everything came into play. And then all the memories came back. And they're all lessons that we as souls, as human lifetime souls, come here to learn. And the families and the people in our lives are all part of that contract, the lessons that we want to learn. Right? So a lot of people say, don't you have resentment and anger and stuff like that? And I says, no, and I did. And that's where I had to work on it. Everybody has to take responsibility for their own stuff. So there's a lot more about that, mostly about being metaphysical. And what does that mean? I know you asked me before, I'm a metaphysical minister and a recovery metaphysician. And what does that mean? Well, there's a lot to it. But what happened was eventually I moved out. I continued on this mediumship journey. I started taking classes for spiritualism to be a medium. I started having past life things happening to me. And my mediumship was different is because I could look at a person and I can see and I could feel what they were going through. And at the same time, I was still working at the hospital. So I was doing both. I was working at mainstream and I was doing holistic mediumship stuff, And my siblings, who had all passed, a lot of them had passed by then, was in this type of work too. My brother, who died in 2012, was a he was a metaphysical researcher and philosopher, and he had a radio show, and he had over 4,000 tape shows on metaphysics, and a lot of it was about the energy and the ETs and astrology and who we are and the government and all the things they were hiding from us and all this other stuff. But it was more radical stuff, and I said, I didn't want to get involved in that. And then my sister, who died in '08, she was a Reiki master, and she lived her life Native American. She made jewelry, Native American jewelry, and she did a lot of sweat lodges and stuff like that. And she tried to get me to go to sweat lodges, way back when, and I said, no, get away from me, you're evil, that's when I was still Christian, Christian secretary. And it's all part of who I am now, being a recovery metaphysician, but also being a Shaw woman, which is shamanic, my past lives and where I came from and who I am now, connecting with the energy that's here in Mother Gaia, and then the energy of the magnetic field above us, and then in between, it all ties in. But during that time, when my siblings were doing it, it was like, no. And they have all passed. As I said, I'm number 6 out of 8, but I'm the only one out of 10 in our family that's left. I'm the only survivor of my family. And I always knew I was going to be the last one standing. And I lost my last sibling last March, a year ago March, and I actually lost 3 family members in 3 months. My sister-in-law, my sister, and then my daughter. So, and it's like every time when I had lost a family member, I grew more and more, and they always communicated with me. And I didn't feel so alone, and I knew things. And they kind of helped me along my journey, the whole thing. And they're still here. They're still communicating with me. My journey as a medium was more of a healing journey. And I learned about this healing modality called integrated energy therapy. And it's done with angels. And it deals with the 12 spiritual strands of the DNA and your potential as a soul. So that caught my attention. First of all, the DNA, the science behind it, and the energy part behind it, because I was just involved in all that. And that was in 2013, all right? 2012 was when my brother had passed, the one that was a metaphysical researcher, and he actually came to me when he died. And that's when I knew I was a real medium, you know? And a lot of, I was the top phlebotomist on the expert IV team in the hospital. And the day that he passed, the night before, he had talked to me on the phone, and I knew something was up. He was just so excited, and that I did the medium stuff, and he had taught at this spiritual community called Lilydale years before, which I never knew. And he did astrology workshops there and taught a lot of people. And he was excited because when he got out of the hospital, he was in the hospital at the time, he said, "We're going to go to Lilydale." And then the next day is when he passed, right? And he came to me exactly at 1:28, and I was in the IV office having my lunch, and he came to me. And this is how I was trained as an evidential medium, which means you get evidence from spirit, all right? And you can say, "Oh, I see, your grandmother, she's nice, and you were, had a good time with her." But evidence is evidence. And my brother came to me. I was at the table, and there was nurses behind me on the computers, and he says, Sheila, it's beautiful here. Only my siblings called me Sheila. And I stopped, and I said in my head, "Validate yourself." And he showed me in my third eye, him and I walking down the wedding aisle, and he said, "I gave you away, didn't I?" That's evidence. That's evidence. And I said out loud, "Oh my God, my brother just died." And the nurses behind me said, "Oh, Sheila, you're nuts, all this metaphysical stuff." I said, "No, my brother just died, and I'm going to prove it." And I did. I did prove it, but he died within an hour. I got it verified. But and then what he did was that night I had to go pick up one of my other sisters that was still living. And when I came back home, all of a sudden there was on my cell phone, there was music playing on my cell phone. And it was angels, angelic, and I'm the angel lady. I've always loved angels. As you can see, I've got angels behind me. Anybody that knows me always have called me the angel lady. I've always had angels. So the music was angelic, but it also was space age, like Star Wars or Star Trek, you know. And it was music that my brother used to listen to. It's called Hearts of Spade. And all of a sudden I said, "What is that music?" Anyway, he played music, my brother did, on my phone for 2 weeks. Even with the battery out, it would still play. And he also played music on my niece's phones, but it was their favorite Christian songs. I mean, there's so much evidence that happened, with that. But when he passed, that's when I found out about integrated energy therapy, and it was like it was part. I already knew the angels, and integrated energy therapy is about issues in your tissues, in your cellular memory, which means it's your energy field that you came in with as a soul, all right? And then your physical body, your emotional, and your mental body, everything, right? So IET is about emotions. And remember, I had gone through recovery back in the 80s, and I had been working all this stuff. And I've been, letting go of my anger and my fear and my shame, and dealing with my own stuff. So I knew this stuff. And so it's like everything came into play, how it all happened, and a lot of people say, "How did you get here?" And I said, "Well, it's a long story, but if you really look at your life, you can see where you've had helpers all along. You've had people that's been with you. You have your own beliefs, of course. And if you don't, really challenge those beliefs, and those programs, then a lot of people stay stuck. And I am a recovery metaphysician, which means I help people recover from everything and anything that stops them from moving on. And a lot of time it's alcoholism, or some type of an addiction, or relationship problems, or professional problems. And a lot of it comes from the program that you had moving, growing up. And a lot of people say, I'm not happy. And I says, okay, why are you unhappy? Well, I'm not happy at my job. Well, why don't you like the job? I'm a doctor and I'm a lawyer. I don't like it or whatever. I want to be an artist. And so why don't you do it? Oh, no, I can't do it. So those are all issues in the tissues where you stay stuck from the programs and your behaviors, how you act so that you're loved, right? And how you feel love from your family members or whatever, or your ego, or you don't want to take a step farther out of fear. It's mostly fear. So what I always say, there's two choices. It's either love or fear. And most of us are working in fear. And with this energy that's here now, it's all about the energy of manipulation, and they call it the dark. The power that's happening is it's ugly stuff is coming out. Well, ugly stuff has always been there. It's just that now is a time of change. And this is a time of a great awakening and what we're actually here to do. So my soul knew what I was here to do. And all those experiences that I've had before kind of prepared me to do what I'm doing now. As a recovery metaphysician, as a metaphysical minister, and as a healer. And I'm also a teacher, a trainer, and a mentor. And then I'm also a new energy educator, which means I teach people of why the energy is different now. What is this shift of consciousness? What does this mean? How can you relate it to yourself? And so many of us are starting to waken up. So many of us are coming out of our fear and standing in our power and being the soul who we were meant to be. So back in 2013, I went through all the classes for integrated energy therapy. I had no intention of being a master. I had intention of, all right, keep going. I needed to be a higher frequency. And each of those levels, you open up your energy awareness and consciousness to higher frequency. And so I did my first 3 levels in 2013. And then in 2014, I actually did my master class. But in between, I in January of 14, I had actually a procedure that it recalibrated my DNA up to a higher frequency. And that's I know it's kind of hard to understand, but it happened in January. And then in February, I had an appointment with a doctor that verified I no longer had what I had years ago, different diagnosis, which I knew it. My doctor and I knew it because we were working on me, And then in March, I went and did the master's class. Now, I'm hard of hearing. Did I share that? I don't know whether I shared that or not, but I wear hearing aids. And I could hear, the angels and everybody talking to me, but I couldn't hear for other people. So I always read lips. And I never got hearing aids until I went to nursing school when I was almost 40 years old. All right. So I could hear, when I went to that master's class, I had no intention of being a master instructor, teaching other people. I just wanted the higher frequency. So when it was taught, that part of the classes for 2 days of training, I didn't really pay any attention. I kind of was like, I don't need that. And then when I got home, it was a 3-hour drive from where the classes were held. It was over by Woodstock, New York, down by New York City, and I live way over by Niagara Falls, by Ontario, Lake Ontario, which is upper near New York. And so I was in bed, and I divorced in 2006. I moved out in 2005 and got divorced in 2006. And then from 6 all the way up to 12, 13, I was, doing more metaphysical stuff, training, became a medium, did shamanic work, that type of stuff. And then when 14 came, I got home, and I was woken up in the middle of the night by Angel Metatron, and he's one of the angels that I work with. And he says that I'm going to be a great teacher. and I'm going to change the world. And I didn't have nice words for him. I said, how do I do that? I can hardly hear. I don't teach. I'm not a teacher. And I was giving him foul language. And I said, how do I do that? How do I do that? And he says, you teach what you know. You've lived it. This is what you're here to do. I was like, okay. So I said, well, you're gonna have to help me. So he did. So from 14 on, I started teaching. I don't know what the heck I was doing, but I just followed and did what I was supposed to. And I look back at that now and I just giggle. It's because the way that I teach now is totally different than the way I teach then. It's because I built my confidence. I know who I am. They were building me and strengthening me and changing me, And so it was a trip. It was a trip. So that started, the metaphysical stuff, the spiritual stuff, and where I was going in my life. And then I was involved with some other mentors that helped me along this line. And then I heard about this channeler named Cryon, who channels he channels energy. He's an angelic entity that's been channeling for over 35 years, and he's a top channeler in the world. And he actually is on a team with top scientists with spirituality. And that's what I liked about it, is that it was all science-based and it was real stuff. And the people that were on the team were people that I knew about, Greg Braden, Dr. Bruce Lipton, who wrote Biology of Belief, showing about epigenetics, that, just because you have a gene doesn't mean that you're going to get a disease like your family. It depends on the environment around the gene and the cell. And then also Joe Dispenza about raising your consciousness and stuff like that. So they were all on the team with Ryan. And so I had heard one of Cryon's channels in 2016. And Spirit told me the channel was about women that were going to make a difference all over the world. That there were going to be women all over the world that would connect with each other and really help raise the vibration of this energy. And they were part of the Lemurian Sisterhood. And so that was in 16. And beginning of 17, I met the person, Dr. Amber Wolf, who was part of the crime team, who was the leader of it. And I said, no, that's not for me. I didn't relate. But Spirit said, yes, you are. And so I was part of the Lemurian Sisterhood for 5 years. And during that 5 years, I built my own security, my sacred circles, connecting with other women. And the Lemurian Sisterhood is about women and also men, but mostly women, that were awakening to their Akashic remembrance. Akashic means another lifetime, but remembrance of their first life as a human in Lemuria, back when we first came with the 23 chromosomes that we have now. We have a 24th metaphysical, multidimensional chromosome pair, the 24th. And that is the energy that's awakened now here. But as a first generation Lemurian, all right, I had memories. And I remember birthing babies. And I was part of the women that helped birth in the birthing pools. And the star mothers, so a lot of people kind of know the story and some people don't. But Aboriginal people and indigenous people believe that we came from the stars and that we have ancestors that are here, whether they're in the earth or whether they're above, they're here, they're with us, helping us. And it's true. And so Lemuria was the star mothers, the Pleiadian star mothers are the ones that came and gave us the DNA that we have now. And they came from other planets. They came from this constellation of the Pleiades. And there's actually 9 different stars, and 7 of them are visible. All right. There's 3 of them that are really activated. All right. And the 7 are the ones with the 7 star mothers when they talk about the 7 sisters or the 7 star mothers. they're talking about the Pleiadian star mothers that gave us the DNA in Lemuria. All right. So through those 5 years, I was on a lot of different things that I did and opened up my channels and my consciousness and stuff. And I knew that I was part of, part of that reality. In 2017, I also quit mainstream healthcare and started doing my practice full time. And that's when I went back and got my degree in metaphysics. And I also became a licensed certified heart math coach. And heart math is about your emotions, the energy in your heart, and connected it in your head. And it's the breathing. And as you can actually build resilience against stress and trauma. So that's part of my practice too. But it also goes with the recovery stuff too. That people in recovery have a lot of post-traumatic stress, disorders, and all that stuff, which I did too. And so in 2017, it was a big year, but it was also a part of the awakening that was happening to me. So 17 all the way until 21, I was part of the Lemurian Sisterhood. And during that time, so many things were changing. I mean, the communications from the Star Mothers. So I also am a channel. I channel the Galactic Star Mothers. And a lot of people say, which ones? And what I tell them is all of them. You don't need to have a name. A lot of people want to identify. That's our linear mind. We want to have conceptualized so we understand it. And being in the metaphysical realm, it is about thinking outside of the box. All right? It is a frequency. So metaphysical is a frequency that's around you. And this energy has been coming for a long time. And what I learned, being part of the Cryon event and also the science behind it and everything, is that the energy started changing in 1987, and it's called the harmonic convergence. And the harmonic convergence is when we, as souls, gave permission to start this shift of consciousness that's here. So a lot of people talk about the shift of consciousness. What is that? What is that? It is the duality that we have here is happening too. The higher frequency and the lower frequency. So when we talk about the light, I'm a light worker, all right, in the higher light frequency, and then we have dark frequency, and the people that are, not good people doing nice things type thing. And when we talk about shadow work, a lot of people talk about shadow work. Shadow work is dealing with things that, don't help you, that are more negative, all right? And so as a healer, I help people, and as a star mother, what I do is I help people reset and recalibrate and upload and download the new light codes that are here now. That's the higher energy. That's what's coming through. When we have a lot of people ask why it's so powerful with the energy now, with the solar eclipse, and every time we have a full moon and what is happening, it's all part of the shift of humanity in the magnetic field of the earth. And we actually gave it permission in 1987 to start it. And what was happening was it started the precession of the equinox. And the precession of the equinox is a 36-year time period where the magnetic field starts to change. And it started in 1994 all the way up to 2030, where this quantum frequency energy is changing the magnetic field in the earth. It's changing the magnetic field in us because we are electromagnetic beings. Our heart beats, it's a frequency, goes out, and it's affecting our bodies. So we're going to go back a little bit. And the precession of the equinox was prophesized, and it was seen by the stars from the Aboriginal people and indigenous people for years. And it also is science. It has to do with astrology, and it has to do with the positioning of the planets and how the energy reflects off the sun and the other planets to us. And it's called the wobble of the Earth, where the Earth actually changes and shifts. That is where the magnetic grid is changing. And I think it was in 2002 or 3, the actual airport runways, the compass had to be changed. They have to be changed because the frequency was changing. So that's kind of like evidence a lot of people don't want to look at, but that's showing that the magnetic grid is changing. And so the 36-year time period, halfway, was 2012. So a lot of people talk about 2012, what happened in 2012. And a lot of people say it's just a folklore, it's just a myth, it didn't happen. Well, it did happen. And what it was the start of the opening of the beautiful energy grids of consciousness that was actually put into the earth over 200,000 years ago, way when the planet was first conceived, all right, by the Pleiadian star planet beings. And they were portals, energy portals, that were negative and positive, all right? They're pairs. There's 12 of them. And they were placed in special high consciousness areas all over the world. And there was actually 12 sets. And the first set was in Hawaii, and that is where Lemuria was, in Hawaii. And so Lemuria was an organization that was like a 30,000 year time period with the humans that were born there, the Lemurians, had the 23 chromosomes with the 24th multidimensional. And science proved it, and actually Greg Braden actually proved it, and also other scientists have proved that we did not come from apes, as we've been told, even though science, they don't want us to know that because then they have to change everything, and, a lot of things would be changed because of that. But it actually is about science, and it's proof, right? And a lot of people say, well, when I teach about the new energy, I say the old energy and the new energy. And they say, what's the difference? The difference is the frequency of understanding our evolvement in this frequency, right? There's nothing wrong with the old energy. That's what we learned. Just like we didn't know that, germs, we didn't have the microscope. We didn't know that germs causes viruses and sickness and stuff like that. And look how far we have expanded in the last 200 years, especially this last 100 years. Think about that. So when you think of the energy shift that's been happening, it started in 87. And what that means is that any soul, a human that was birthed on planet Earth, was born after 1987, and a couple of years before it started ripping up, they have a different frequency. And that's why you hear the term indigo children, you hear the term of rainbow children, light being children, star seeds, all this stuff. And we'll talk about star seeds in just a minute too, what that means. And there's so much to it as far as those children, whether, a lot of them are Asperger's, a lot of them, the mental stuff that's going on, the bipolar children, the ones that are savants, they're very intelligent, but they can't relate to people. So they're the autism children. So Lee Carroll, the one gentleman that channels Cryon, wrote the first book, Indigo Children. And it was about the different children that are born after that time. And it's the frequency that they have. All right. However, mainstream turned it that, they have autism and they have this, and we got to medicate them, put the chemicals in them and change them. Why they're different is that they have a different frequency and they have a higher consciousness. And because the energy has changed here. All right. They came in from this higher consciousness. All right. Our souls, we don't ever die. We're always alive. All right. And so that is their way of relating. But we, linear human here, society wants to dumb them down. So we medicate them and that type of stuff to control them because we don't know how to do it any other way because we haven't been taught yet. But we're being taught. That's the change of what's happening with the young ones that are coming in now. We're being changed and we're teaching them, what it's about. Like people like me. Go ahead. I know you want to ask something.
How
Exactly.
does this vibration that we're born with and frequency that we're born with, how does it then play out with the changes that we can make?
Well, that's why, as a recovery metaphysician, I help people, is because people are starting to relate to this frequency. Something's different. And a lot of them are just realizing that they don't have to follow the rules, or they don't have to believe what people are telling them or whatever. COVID was a big, big shift. But those portals that I started talking about, those 12 energy portals, they started opening in 2012, and they opened at different areas in the earth over an 8-year period from 2012 all the way to 2019. Okay. Well, they, 9 period, but it was when that last set of portals opened in 2019, in December of 19, is when a lot of the stuff started happening, the shift, when you think about COVID.
That's like COVID,
Yeah.
right? Like when I was thinking December 19, is there a connection between those portals having opened and COVID?
The connection is the energy of the earth. Okay. So the lower frequency was always here, and they've always had control. But within that time period of 12 and 19, the ones who want to control they were seeing the change that a lot of us were awakening up, okay? And we were resisting. That's why you see all the changes in the politics. You see the changes in the world trade. You see changes all around. This is worldwide, all right? And yeah, there is lower frequency and higher frequency. And sometimes there's bad stuff happening, and COVID was a bad stuff. But it had to do with the frequency that was happening, is that the light is getting stronger. We're getting stronger, and the darkness don't like us, so they're going to fight back. Now, if you think about what's happened the last 20, 30 years in advertising, in the media, it's all been about control. All right? So a lot of people have been turning off their TV because they realize it's all about negative stuff. There's not positive stuff. So they started changing. This has been going on since 2012 and 13 and 14. People started to change, is because they started waking up. Their frequency started waking up. So when I started talking about doing my own sacred circles and what I do and help people connect with a higher frequency, what is happening is that the 24th chromosome is our spiritual divineness. It's our intuition. It's our knowing. It's our wisdom. Okay. So within those times, people are saying, I don't believe that, look at the advertising. They're advertising for this drug. Everybody's all happy. And then the bottom say it calls death, they call whatever. It's all control. People started waking up, and they said, no, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. And so they're changing. So the darkness seen this going on. So they're ripping up more problems, more problems, more problems. Okay. So people are feeling, wait a minute, I don't want to do that. But they have to take responsibility. And a lot of times it's the programming. They stay in that fear. They say, I can't change. I can't do whatever. But people are starting to stand up in their authentic sovereignty of who they really are. They're starting to go outside of the mold, go outside of that box. Okay? And the young ones are the ones I don't believe that don't resonate with me at all. And a lot of people are saying, oh my gosh. You have the older ones are saying, oh, kids are disrespectful, look at these young ones. And then there's the ones like us who are enlightened and awake and say, it's changing, it's here. That's the change. The millennium, and there's names for what they call you. I can't remember them in my head right now, but it's so strong and so powerful. It's because they have that different frequency. They came in with it. So when we have a solar flare, when we have eclipse or whatever, it is changing the resonance in the earth, all right? The Schumer's resonance frequency, all right, which they show, proving that the energy frequency in the earth is different now. And it is affecting our physical bodies because we are electromagnetic fields. And they proved it scientifically 9/11. And HeartMath and Prince University was part of the scientists that did that. That's what I say. I'm all about science. I like that. I like to go back to science. A lot of people say, oh, that's a bunch of crap. You know, it's like, no, it's not. It's like, think about that. All right. So it showed that they've had geomagnetic machines in the earth and also satellites since the 90s. And when 9/11 happened, it showed in those machines that something happened about 15 minutes before the energy went right up real high. Okay. Once the towers were hit, it was sky high off the rocket, and it stayed like that for 2 days. It was because of the compassion. Technology, we were able to see on TV everything that was happening, and all of us, our heart went out. It was just, we were in total shock. Okay? And so it changed the frequency inside our bodies, and it went out into the magnetic field around us, the energy grid around us. So when I started talking about 2012 and those portals from 2012 to 19, each time one of those pairs opened up, it started changing the consciousness grid of the energy in 3 different areas. It was the crystalline consciousness grid in the earth, okay, which represents our souls, because when we die, we just died from this meat suit, you know. We don't actually die, our souls lives, all right? And our ancestors, their frequency is always with us. We make that soul contract. You know, we're not ever going to leave our loved ones, right? But we're at a different frequency when we cross over. So that's the grid in the earth. And also the power of the directions and the seasons and, you know, the elements and how it works with us and stuff like that. But then we have the global warning. And the global warning is like, you know, all this stuff that you've been told what's happening. But the earth has gone through changes like this every 400 years. It's like a dirty fish tank. The earth has got to clean itself. So it's going to go through the cold areas and the hot areas and whatever. It's cleaning itself. All right. That's what Mother Gaia does. Right. So we're going to go back to the frequency, the grid, consciousness grid in the earth. Then we have the consciousness field around us that we are feeling things. We're responding to things. Have you ever been into a room where somebody walks in and you just, oh, I don't like that person. You know, you don't know why you don't like that person. But it's the frequency, that the things that are stuck within their cellular memory. Remember I told you about IET and about the issues in the tissues? So each of those fields have an energy. And when a medium or a psychic reads a field, they're just reading the field. The medium can read the souls in connection that way, all right? But we, as beings, can read people's fields. We can feel emotion, okay? So that's getting stronger and stronger. And people say, well, I've always had this, but it's really, you know, spooking me out. But as you start to step into that and realize that you do have the power, you start to get stronger and stronger, all right? And that's where this energy of the portals are opening up. It's affecting us. And that's why people are starting to live in this new energy. All right. They're starting to say, okay, there's something different. I don't understand it, but there's something different. So besides the field around us, it's called the Makaba, or the energy field around us. And it's actually 26 feet wide, or 8 meters. All right. So it's just not like here, it's big. And then we have the collective consciousness above us, which is the magnetic field of the earth around us, with the satellites and the air and the wind and stuff like that, that brings in messages and brings stuff in. So you get the 3 grids. In 19, when they completely opened, the whole energy was changed, and it was affecting our physical bodies, because what it was doing is recalibrating your DNA so that you can live in this higher frequency. Because see, we are human bodies. And it takes adjustments for our bodies to assimilate this energy. And when I talk about, you know, this has happened over like a 40-year period, this is made me is developed. And I had to understand it and work it for myself. Now, a lot of the young ones like you, come forward and they call themselves star seeds, you know, or light workers, or I'm empath, or, you know, they put labels on themselves, which is great. Or I remember I'm from Atlantis, or I'm from whatever. That's fine. The key is that we're all connected in this energy. And when they say star seeds, it is about our connection to the galactic, where we came from. We know that there's more to us. Where we come from? Who are we? What I asked this little girl. My soul know it, just like you guys know it because you're at a different frequency. And then you don't put up with a lot of stuff. You can see right through a phony person, if they're not being real. That's what I like about is being real and authentic, because you can tell right away that a person is putting something on or acting, doing an act instead of being sincere. That's the compassion that we have as humans. Well, when you start to understand why do people act that way, why do they project themselves that way, and a lot of it is that they're hurt and it's for survival. So when you go back to the issues in the tissues, in other words, the things that was programmed into them, the things that they experienced, the hurt that they had and the shame, and also the fear and the anger, and that they had no way of changing that, so then they put barriers around them, and then they have to act so that they're loved. And when you start to understand your own issues in your tissues and release them, that's when the love and the harmony comes in. And that's when you have more peace and compassion. So a lot of people say to me, well, why don't you anger about this one or whatever, and all the stuff that's happened to me? It's like, well, first of all, I contributed to that, and I had to take a look at my part of it. And then if it's not my stuff, it's their stuff, am I coming out of recovery when I'm placing the focus on them and not on myself? So when I encounter a person like that 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 they're lying, so you don't have to challenge them. What you just have to say is, soul, help me understand and let me send them compassion, because they don't know what they don't know. They don't know that they're lying so that they can survive better, or they can look better, or they can keep their job, or they can go home to mama or, whatever, and say, I have a great job and this is what I do. It's all about ego, because that's the program. Those are the programs that they've had, all right? And the beliefs and how their behaviors, the rewards they get from their behaviors, all right? So as us, as light workers, as awakened souls, in other words, the ones who feel this frequency, that there's something to it, our role is to shine the light, is to change the frequency and be that light source for the people that need us, be the lighthouse. But also, at the same time, when we change ourselves, we change the frequency all the way around us and everybody that comes into our path. And it always starts with us. And that's why I say it's an inside job. When I teach integrated energy therapy, it is a quantum energy, and I teach a lot of practitioners and a lot of just professional lay people, and I love that because I help them in their lives. But I teach a lot of them, they just want the certificate. Or they'll say, I've been doing this work for years. I know. Okay, well, what do you know? Why did you find me? But the thing is I try to get them to look at themselves. Okay, we're going to bring it back to you. That's why I'm called the healer of the healers. You need to look at yourself first and understand your own issues. Why do I get angry? Why do I feel pain? Why do I whatever? And understand where that came from and heal yourself. And then when you do that, then you can have compassion for somebody else, and everything else in your life gets better. And that's how you also raise your frequency. You raise your energy frequency to higher frequency. So that is the big change that's happening now. People are taking responsibility. They're starting to awaken and search for people like me. And with me being a healer, I'm a mentor. I help other healers that have been doing this for years say, why is it changing? I said, let's bring it back to you. Oh, no, we don't. I've been doing this. I don't have to go. No, we do. We do. Because it starts with you. And you need to anchor your energy, your light energy, into the earth to help everybody else and to continue this ascension process. That's what the shift to consciousness is. It's our awakening of who we are as spiritual divine beings with wisdom. And the wisdom comes from all those lifetimes. And now, as we ascend, and a lot of people say, what is ascension? I don't want to ascend. I don't want to die. It's about your spiritual evolvedness, the energy around you that comes out. You're ascending as a being, as a soul. Okay. And this ascension time is so that we don't have to carry any karma with us. A lot of people say, well, the bad karma, whatever. Well, there's karma and there's dharma. The difference between the two is the dharma is all the good things you learn in all those lifetimes. That's what you bring forward. The karma is the bad things. Is oh, well, karma, they'll get their karma back. It's a bitch or whatever. They have different interpretations of what karma is. Somebody, they earned it and they should, rot in hell or whatever. How people get really upset about that. The key is as you ascend as a being, you no longer carry that karma. When you come back, we're coming in at a higher frequency. We're no longer going to have that karma because we're doing the work now. So with my group, I have Galactic Ascension Academy and I mentor people and I bring in the Star Mothers. What I do is I help clear and I bring in the light codes of higher frequency into their DNA because your soul's ready. There's no coincidence on anything. It's ready. And it has to shift and reset and clear. But first, you've got to give the permission and bring the intention through. And that's where people look for people like us, like me, that do this work and say, okay, I know I have to do this. A lot of people want to take the shortcut. And they want to put the horse before the cart. And I have so many people that have come to me that have heard my name or in their dreams or whatever, or the universe will bring them to me and they'll take off and do light language or whatever, but they don't understand why nothing is happening. I said, because you've got the horse before the cart. You need to look on all of the stuff that's in between. And that's the 12 spiritual strands of your DNA, your soul's potential, and the things that get caught in your energy fields, on your cellular memory, your DNA. The 24th chromosome is where we're at now. That's the intuition. That's our knowing. That's whatever. That's great. But if you can't change all this karma and stuff and live your life from higher frequency, what is that doing for you? That's the confusion that people are having. Well, I'm a good person. I don't hurt people. No, you don't. You are a good person. But the stuff that's happened in the past is still within inside you. And it's still stopping you from reaching a higher frequency. See why I'm an energy educator? This is what it's about. It's about changing you first. And then when I work with people, I work individual sessions with them, a one-on-one and mentor. And then I also have done a bunch of events that they can do to keep them on the higher frequency. It's all about the choices you make, whether to be in the positive energy or to be in the negative energy. And a lot of people say, well, what are you talking about? I said, well, what about your thoughts? Well, okay, well, I got this and got that, and I got to do this and I got to do that. It's like, okay, so let's think of what you got to do and what you want to do. And let's let go of the shoulda, wouldas, and couldas. All right. And let's look at the divine being that you are. And when you think of things already happened. A lot of people, they want to pray. All right. They're praying, whatever. Put the affirmations out. You are in control of your body. You have the control because you are the master of your soul. And your innate soul has been waiting for you to give the permission to do it. But we think we have to pray to this person, that person to have it done. No, you command and you demand. All right. All right. And you say, I am a divine being and I am benevolent. And my life matters. It's the words that you put out, the things that you think and the things that you say. And we do it all the time. We say negative things. Oh, I can't do that. This is what's going to happen or whatever. You just told the energy that you can't do it. So let's say, I'm going to have a great day today and I'm going to get this accomplished and that. Now, I am just so grateful. Put yourself in the gratitude every day. Wake up and ask your divine soul, I'm going to have a great day. And I know we're going to do it together. Because you are the soul. You are one with the energy of God, or your source, whatever you want to call it. All right? Because that's the energy. that we come from. That's who we are. We're divine. We're benevolent. We're magnificent.
So you've mentioned working with people and helping them recover, heal, and be in touch with their own frequency and increase their frequency as well. How can people connect with you, and how can they connect with your work?
Oh, absolutely. They can connect with me on my website, and that's SheilaTillich.com. And you can find me right on the website. I have a Galactic Ascension Academy, which is where I have events. First of all, I do sessions worldwide with people on an individual basis. I do monthly sessions with people. They make a commitment to me because they want to change. So we have to start with them. Okay? And with those sessions, you also get my Galactic Ascension Academy. You get everything. You get courses, you get actually events, you get activations, you get transmissions. You are part of a community. It's a community of like-minded souls that want to grow. That's basically what it is. It's about this ascension, about our ascending as souls. But first we have to do our own work. So the first thing I would say, if you want to get a hold of me, Sheila Tillich, start with sessions, or just become a member of my Galactic Ascension Academy Inner Circle, where you can just attend the events. I have something almost every week. And the key is do the work. Don't just do it once a week. Do it every day. Stand in that power before you get out of bed. Say, Divine Source, we are one, and we're going to have a great day today. Set the intention. You get in that driver's seat, all right? And so you can connect with the actual events. And also on YouTube, I have free podcasts with many different healers. I also am going to have my new video channel. I have a channel on YouTube now that I'm going to be doing more videos with people instead of just podcasts. All right. Even though the podcasts are videos, it's changing. I mean, the mothers, everything's changing, and connecting me with people, the people that's supposed to be. I am a healer, and when I do sessions, it's just not IET. Integrated energy therapy is a small part. What I do is that star mothers come in, all right, and we'll do a counseling. So because I am a minister and I also am a metaphysician, I have be able to do that. So I can see what you need. And that's the grandmothers. That's the star mothers coming in saying, this is what the person needs. So this is what we're going to do. And this is what I will say. And then we'll actually go into the healing. And when I do a healing, the star mothers come in and open it. And then I walk you through your body and we talk about all the different things. All right. And I do IET, I do Reiki, I do Unity Field. Unity Field healing is that 24th chromosome. And what you're doing with that is that you're bringing all the stuff from your past lives and you're clearing and bringing just the good stuff forward. And that's where the 24th comes alive. That's where you live in the higher frequency. Okay. But just one-time deal doesn't make it. You just can't do it one time and expect everything to change. You have to continue. So that's why I offer the free transmissions, the free podcasts, the events that you can be part of, in between the monthly sessions that you have one-on-one with me, So Galactic Ascension Academy membership, you can join that. Or you can do the actual sessions with me once a month. And that is including all the inner circle, all the Galactic Ascension stuff, all the events that I have. And then some people just want individual sessions. They want an IET, they want a Unity Field, or they want a Reiki. And you can do that too. And that's a lot cheaper. All right. Go to my website. It's all there. And also my YouTube channel, Sheila Tillich, Holistic Energy Healer, Galactic Ascension Academy. So that's who I am.